Imagine this. You're driving home from work next Monday after a long day. You tune in your radio, and you hear a little blurb about a village in India where 4 people have suddenly died from a flu that's never been seen before. You don't think too much about it, but coming home from church the following Sunday, you hear another spot on the radio, only now they say it's not 4 people dead, but 30,000 people dead in the Black Hills of India. By Monday morning when you get up, it's the lead story, only now they say it's not just India, but Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Northern Africa, and everybody's wondering, how are we ever going to contain this thing? The president has made some comment that he and his family are praying and hoping that all will go well over there. But everybody is wondering, how are we ever going to contain this thing? And that's when the president of France makes an announcement that shocks all of Europe. He's closing the French borders. Nobody in and nobody out. And that's why that night you're watching a little bit of CNN before you go to bed. Your jaw hits your chest as a weeping woman is translated into English from a French news program. There's a man lying in hospital in Paris, dying of the mystery flu. It's come to Europe. Britain closes its borders, but it's too late. Panic strikes. As best they can tell, after you contract the disease, you have 1 week of unbelievable symptoms, and then you just die. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows how to stop it from spreading, and nobody knows how to cure it. Britain's closed its borders, but it breaks out in Southampton, Liverpool, and London. And on Tuesday morning, the President of the United States makes the following announcement. Due to national security risk, all flights to and from America have been canceled. If you have loved ones overseas, I'm sorry. They cannot come home until we find a cure for this thing. Within 4 days, America is plunged into an unbelievable fear. Preachers on television are saying, it's the scourge of God. People are wondering, well, what if it comes to this country? And on Tuesday night, you're at church for a meeting when somebody comes running in from the parking lot screaming, turn on a radio. And while everyone listens to a small radio, the announcement is made that 2 women are lying in a hospital in New York City, dying of the mystery flu. It's come to America. Within hours, the disease seems to envelop the country. People are working around the clock trying to find an antidote, but nothing is working. And the disease breaks out in California, Oregon, Florida, Massachusetts. It's as though it's just sweeping in from the borders. And then all of a sudden the news comes out. The code has been broken. A cure can be found. A vaccine can be made. But it's going to take the blood of somebody who hasn't been infected. And so sure enough, each and every single one of us is asked to do just one thing. Go to your nearest hospital and have your blood tested. By the time you and I get down to the hospital, it's late Friday night. And they've got long lines of people. And they've got doctors and nurses coming out and taking blood and putting labels on it. And they take your blood and they say, wait here in the parking lot. And you stand around in the parking lot with thousands of people, with your family, with your friends, scared, waiting, wondering what on earth is going on here. Wondering how, in this modern day and age, did we ever allow it to come to this? And then all of a sudden, a young man comes racing out of the hospital. He's screaming a name and waving a clipboard. You don't hear his name. He screams the name again. You don't hear him again. But then your son tugs at your jacket and says, that's me. That's my name they're calling. Before you know it, they've grabbed your son. They're racing him into the hospital. You run after them. You say, wait a minute. Hold on. Where are you going? What are you doing? That's my son. They say, it's okay. We think he's got the right blood type. We just need to check one more time to make sure he doesn't have the disease. 5 minutes later, out come the doctors and nurses, crying, hugging, laughing. It's the first time you've seen anybody laugh in almost a week. And an old doctor walks over to you and your spouse and he says, thank you. Your son's blood, it's perfect. We can use it to make a vaccine and put an end to this thing once and for all. As that news begins to spread across the parking lot, people begin to scream and pray and laugh and cry. But then the old gray-haired doctor pulls you and your spouse aside for another minute. He says to you, We didn't realize that the donor would be a child. We didn't realize the donor would be a child. We're going to need you to sign a consent form. Well, that seems simple enough. So you take the pen, you begin to sign the form. But as you do, you realize that the box for the number of pints of blood to be taken is empty. So you stop signing and you look up at the old doctor and you say, how many pints? And that is when the old doctor's smile fades. He looks away from you. He says, we didn't realize it would be a child. We weren't ready for that. You say to him again, how many pints? The old doctor says, we're going to need it all. What do you mean you're going to need it all? You said, he's my only son. Doctor grabs you by the shoulders and he shakes you. And he looks you in the eye and he says, we are talking about the whole world here. Do you understand that? The whole world. You say to him, but, I mean, can't you give him a transfusion? Doctor says, if we had clean blood, we would, but we don't. Please, will you sign the form? We need to hurry. What would you do? What would you do? Will you sign the form because you realize it's the only thing to do? And then the old doctor says to you, would you like to have a moment with your son before we get started? Could you walk back into that hospital room where your son sits there saying, Mommy, Daddy, what's going on? Could you tell your son you love him? And then when the doctors and nurses come back and say, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave now. We've got to get started. People all over the world are dying. Could you leave? Just turn around and walk out while your son sits there saying, Mommy, Daddy, what's going on? Where are you going? Why are you leaving? Why have you abandoned me? And then next week, next Sunday, when they hold a ceremony to honor your son and his phenomenal contributions, some people don't bother to come because they got better things to do. A whole bunch of people come with a pretentious smile, they pretend to care, but they're really more interested in the whole social aspect of it all. And another bunch of people sit around and say, this is pretty boring. What would you want to say to them? Wouldn't you want to stand up and say, excuse me, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but the incredible life you have, my son, he died so you could have that life. Maybe that's what God wants to say. Maybe somewhere in a culture that's all consumed with what's in it for me and what do I get out of it and how quickly can I get my hands on it, maybe we've missed the point, maybe we've overlooked the point. And yet at the same time, I got to believe that most people want to have a richer experience of the Mass on Sunday. When people come to me and say, I'm bored at Mass, I believe them. They're not lying to me. They have no reason to lie to me. They're bored at Mass. And we have an obligation to engage them. Not entertain them, but genuinely engage them. Genuinely show them, demonstrate to them that Christianity is the best way to live. Genuinely demonstrate to them that Catholicism provides phenomenal opportunities that help them become the best version of themselves and live that ultimate dream that God has for us. We have an obligation to engage people. And we've been talking about it, like I said, fix this, change this, new this, old this. 20 years, 30. Let me give you a summary of what 64 million Catholics in America sound like talking about the Mass for the last 20 years. Let me give you a quick summary of that. This is what it sounds like. Well, the problem with the Mass, the problem with the Mass is those altar servers. Have you seen some of the shoes those altar servers wear? What are we going to do about that? That's the problem with the Mass right there, and we need to start right there. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. They can wear any shoes they like, but how about a little bit of reverence? We got no reverence from those altar servers. Little bit of reverence. That's the problem with the Mass. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the music at our church is too modern. They got drums and guitars and saxophones and trumpets. It's just too modern. That's the problem with, oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. At our church, it's like straight back to the 1600s. We got to get them at least into the 17 or 1800s. It's just too old-fashioned at our church. That's the problem with the Mass. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. I'll tell you the problem with the Mass is not actually the music. It doesn't matter if the music's old-fashioned or modern. The problem with the Mass is the cantor. She can't sing that good to start with. We need to tone her down a little bit. That'll be a good start. That's the problem with the Mass right there. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the Eucharistic ministers. Who chose those people to be Eucharistic ministers? Must be a volunteer position, because I wouldn't choose some of those people to do anything. That's the problem with the Mass. No, that's not the problem with the Mass. I tell you, the problem with the Mass is the readers. Half of them can't read. half of them can't see over the pulpit, and half of them can't pronounce half the words. That's the problem with the Mass. Oh no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the priest. I mean, our priest is too old. He's just too old. Let's get a new priest. I mean, he's just too old. No, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is our priest is too young. I mean, what's he going to teach me about life? What is he going to teach me about? He should go out and live some life and then come back and teach me something about life. How about that for an idea? That's the problem with the Mass. No, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the microphone system. I mean, couldn't we get a decent microphone system? I mean, it's not too much to ask, is it? I mean, half the time we can't hear the priest. I mean, half the time we don't want to hear the priest, but the other half the time when we actually want to hear the priest, we can't hear the priest. Is it too much to get a decent... That's the problem with the Mass. No, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the kneelers. We've got to get rid of those kneelers. Too old-fashioned. That's the problem. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. We can keep the kneelers, but can we get those soft, padded, cushion kneelers? That's the problem with the Mass. Ah, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass, I tell you, the real problem with the Mass, the parking lot. Where are people going to park? I mean, is it too much if we expect people to come to church? Give them somewhere to park. That's the problem with the Mass. Oh, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass, that coffee they serve after Mass. I mean, where do they get that stuff from? And when do they start brewing that stuff? Like Wednesday morning? That's the problem with the Mass. No, no, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is this, and the problem with the Mass is that, and the problem with the Mass is this, and on and on and on and on. And of course, the problem with the Mass, a little bit like the line that separates good from evil, well, it's not out there somewhere. The problem with the Mass is in here. You come through those doors next Sunday, one simple request of God. God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. That's it and that's all. Better than that, go out this week and get yourself a brand new journal. A brand new journal. Take it home, small journal, big journal, whatever you like. I got a little one, just fits in my shirt pocket, just a tiny little one. Brand new journal. Take it home, write down on the front cover, God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. And then bring it to church with you. Listen to the music, the readings, the preaching, the quiet of your heart, and write that one thing on its next page. Not 5 things, one thing. Not 16 pages of scribbling notes, one thing on its own page. You do that every Sunday for a year, you will have the most powerful spiritual resource. You can take it to your time each day in the classroom of silence. You can flip through it. How am I doing that one? Good. How am I doing that one? Not so good. How am I doing that one? Forgot about that one. How am I doing that one? Don't like that one anymore. You do that every Sunday for a year, you will have the most powerful spiritual reference. What do we hear about in the scriptures? God said to Adam, God said to Moses, God said to Noah, God said to everybody. It isn't that God has stopped speaking, it's that we've stopped listening. God wants to speak to you in your life. He wants to speak to you in your life. He wants to speak to you personally in ways that are relevant and bold and brilliant and challenging and comforting. And He wants you to become the best version of yourself, and He will speak to you in a way that helps you to do that. We've got to start listening again. But I'll tell you what will happen. I'll tell you what will happen. We'll all go out and get our new journals this week, won't we? Yes? Why? Because we love buying stuff. We love that. We'll bring our new journals home. We'll open up that front cover. We'll write down the front cover. God, show me one way in this Mass my spouse can become a better version of himself this week. Oh no, mistake. Ooh, made a mistake. Oh, hold on. You're right. God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. And then you'll bring the journal to church with you on Sunday. You bring it to church with you on Sunday, and you'll actually be in the pews before the music starts. I know, it's a crazy idea. Radical idea. You'll actually be in the pews before Father gets to the altar. I know, crazy stuff. Just absolutely crazy. Just asking too much, isn't it? You know what they call that? Early. Yeah, that's what that's called. No wonder you're always so confused when Father starts preaching about the early Christians. Early? What sort of Christians are they? You'll be in the pews a couple of minutes early. You'll open up your journal. You say, all right, God, I've tried everything else. Show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. And then you'll listen. You'll listen to the music. You'll listen to the preaching. You'll listen to the prayers of the Mass. You'll listen to readings. You'll listen to the quiet of your heart. And that one thing, it will knock you over. It's not like you'll be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was the one thing, but maybe it wasn't the one thing. And if I take this one thing now, he said just one thing, and I can't have two things. Maybe there'll be a better one thing later. I better wait in case I don't. No. No, the Holy Spirit doesn't work like that. That one thing, it'll hit you. You write it down on its own page. You'll spend the rest of the Mass praying about how you can live that one thing this week. And you'll go home from church on Sunday, you'll be focused, you'll be energized, you'll be invigorated. You'll think to yourself, man, was it that easy?